day did you send us that letter from the tribe? This attachment?
I sent it. No.
You sent it?
You don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry, I thought you. Well, I see some good stuff.
Well, and I sent you the reminder today. Sorry. Oh my god. I like deer in headlights. Yeah, that's what it's impossible. There's the community one or whatever. There's it should be Jackson County. That. What's that?
Commissioners.
Yeah, I feel like that's. There is a public server.
Credit commissioner.
Yeah, they have,
I don't know, it's not popping up on mine. The public access one is usually showing up.
I'll tell you what, there was something going around about 3 weeks ago that caused me to have a real bad cough.
that's what
And
I,
then a really, really sore throat, but I went and got some. I have a friend that feeds
That one's
LPN,
district court guest
and
is
she told me,
also
she said, just go get you some NyQuil,
Yeah, she said I'm
use
excited.
this.
like Walmart or something, and try it for 3 days.
I broke it. Actually,
That's weird.
Yeah,
It's not showing.
my trouble is I quit drinking 31 years ago, and I don't even start.
Is it sugar?
Why don't we go ahead and get started?
You wouldn't want to see
We're a couple
your-
minutes after 6 o'clock, so we're our published timeline. All 9 of us are here, so let's go ahead and go around again and reintroduce ourselves since it's been a while, and I don't think everyone was here a few weeks ago. At least not when I was here, so.
Chris Gordon, I'm from Zelia.
Jonathan Weimer.
Jason Murphy.
Trevor Ashcraft.
Dave Anderson. Bob Phelps.
Ernie DeBus.
Doug Fisher.
Luke Kennedy.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Ernie asked the question before everyone had arrived, and that is, have we visited any other facilities since we started this process? And yes, I visited the one in Lynn County, Iowa, which is Cedar Rapids.
How many acres is it?
Uh,
Does it consume, did they say?
I have that number, I'm just forgetting what it is. It's, I want to say 1,100 or so, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question I got was, what did it look underneath the panels and stuff? Was it mowed or was it just trash or?
It was the panels, those panels, Kate has some photos, which if you want to look at them sometime. The panels that I remember are about maybe 2 feet above the ground. I didn't see any, there wasn't any gravel cover underneath those panels. It was just grass. Now the panels were obviously in that case, and I think probably all systems do this, tilt towards the sun, so that angle changes during the day. So at some point in the day, they're basically flat, and then you can get underneath them and do whatever maintenance needs to be done underneath them during that time. I don't know if we can move them to that horizontal position at any time if they want to do some maintenance just temporarily. They might be able to.
So,
She's got a picture up there.
That represents.
Right, so that's one of the sets. And they're about 18 to 24 inches off the ground in that case. Different systems might have different heights.
well, I've got a friend in Texas that he lives about 1.5 miles from when a tornado hit it and blew stuff over on his property terrible. And he ended up having to get a lawyer and get a the law involved was a mess. And he spent a lot of money just to get them to come clean their mess. And that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to see, because if they're that big, you know, because the area that they're talking about, ever since I was a kid, they call that Tornado Alley out there, this side of the deal. And the bad part is that he told me when he drove by that they decided not to put it back because it was going to cost so much money to replace everything. And that a lot of it, well, like those big concrete pillars right there you see about on the corner and then on in the middle right there, they said that them can be anywhere from 14 to 20 feet deep embedded in concrete. But he said on the paperwork that everything had to only be cleaned out 4 foot down. So they left everything that was over 4 foot down there. And I just am thinking that if we want to even think possibly this could work, that a person needs to read deeper into it and see if that really is in it, you know, because he told me that there were cables as big as 8 inches in diameter to carry the electricity and stuff underground. So, I don't know. But from what I've read, I'm not seeing enough about the specs other than, you know, like we got pictures right there. And from what I'm seeing, and that's the one in Iowa right there.
Yes, yes.
It just, I don't know. It's just my own opinion. I'll just be quiet.
Well, I think that would come under the decommissioning section. If you look into that now.
The decommissioning section of the regulations, I would look at later. Why don't we go ahead and go forward with what we planned for tonight is some of this, we're tasked with doing those investigation on different things. So, Jason, you want to start with your handout?
Sure. Well, I didn't really get very far on the insurance claim. I got a hold of Evergy insurance claims to try to get an idea what coverage, and they just said that they have a third party that if there was damage to a property caused by something with the solar farm, that they would file a third party damage claim, and then they would deem whether the company was responsible, but that's about all they would say. They didn't really get into what the maximums and minimums are and all that stuff, so I didn't really have a lot of luck figuring out how these things are insured. That was my task.
And it's a good act of God caused those solar panels to fly over there.
Well, see, and
How's that covered under insurance?
that's what we're trying to figure out,
Yeah,
because
that's what they'd say. Yeah, it's under your insurance.
because the way it ended up with that friend of mine in Texas, where this company, he wouldn't tell me the name of the company, which I didn't want to know, but where it was leased ground, the landowner is technically responsible to damage. And I said, how is the landowner? And he said, because he owns the ground, and they found a clause that he didn't see because he didn't have a lawyer read everything for him. So the landowner was liable. And I thought, I don't, you know, it's just, there's too many loopholes that I've found, and what I've read doesn't go into, like, hail damage or, you know, and my buddy in Texas told me that there's a deal in there that to keep the control of the heat that's produced by these in, you know, till it don't get too high, they have a cooling unit. But supposedly it's not a toxic oil that runs in through there to cool it. But he said that when they decided not to redo it, that there was brown streaks where they went in and plowed it and regrassed it. And the brown streaks was due to this coolant stuff that come out. And it was still back to the landowner's property. So, but like I said, I'm getting it second rate, I'm not getting it on paper, but everything I've read on paper don't go into deep enough detail for me.
So the other thing that I was working on is the landowner agreements. So I got a draft here I handed out. So I was thinking that this is important enough, maybe we put it in its own section. But basically, it talks about having written notice, to all the property owners within a mile, like was already in there. And then the second page really talks about the written agreements, and this is just what I was thinking we could talk about this. But so any landowner within a mile, the application shall obtain written agreements for all landowners within a mile of the outer boundary of the proposed site, acknowledging and consenting to the proposed development. And then number 2 is if there's a dwelling unit within 3 miles of the outer boundary of the proposed site, acknowledging and consenting to the proposed development. The agreements required shall be permitted as part of the application, shall be part of the public record, fair to submit complete agreements, shall render the application incomplete and eligible to be processed. And then it will be up to the appraiser zoning planning office to verify completeness, property ownership list, written agreements, and you may require supplemental documentation, maps, ownership records to ensure compliance.
I'm curious, what was your resource for this?
Well, this is just what we talked about, what I brought up last time. This is just a way to put it in a form that's more conducive to be part of a regulation. I didn't really know where to put it, so I just figured that maybe have its own section. Or we can take, I was thinking that section 4.1 could be deleted. Number 2, where it talks about additional public notice. Number 16. It wouldn't all have to be deleted, but I thought, well, this kind of takes care of that. But I didn't. It's such a specialty thing. It was the idea of having the landowners that are close to the site having the written agreement with the developer. The idea is to do community consent, consent to the neighbors. They would have to consent to this, before the permit.
I think my question is, do you have any other counties that are imposing this strict requirement?
No, I've never heard of any counties that have done it. But this would, I think, give the setback issue isn't here as an issue. This is part of the regulations to say, okay, everybody within a mile has to sign off on it before you can apply for a permit. And if there's a dwelling within, I put 3 miles, put 2 miles, I'm not real sure, but everybody that owns a dwelling would have to sign off as well. So if you were a neighbor and you wanted less setbacks, or if you wanted more setbacks, it would all have to be part of that. They would have to consent to whatever that is. It would be between the landowner and the developer to figure that out, and not necessarily us regulating that. That was the idea.
And that came off of the idea that you were talking about with the waste
Yeah.
management deal down
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I like the idea, I think 3 miles might be a little stretch, because then you're talking about 6 miles total, correct? I mean, 3 on this side and 3 on this side, so.
Yeah, it would be anything within 3 miles of the outer edge, and but that would be just a dwelling,
Yeah, understand.
and whatever you guys think on that, whatever's reasonable.
I like the idea.
But the question, the biggest question that most people have asked me, they said, will the county actually make any money off of this by letting it go in?
I'm not sure what that, I have to think about that.
So, I mean, does the solar panels get taxed like a business, or how does that work?
There'll be obviously the land remains taxable. If I'm not mistaken, the way we have it set up, at least at the moment, is that the landowner is fully responsible for those tax payments. So it's up to the landowner to work out the agreement with the company.
So in other words, the company is not paying the taxes for the property, it's on a lease deal.
There's also an agreement the county commission has been talking about between the county commission and the company.
Well,
Which
2
will be a
meetings
direct
ago, when
payment from the company to the county.
well, 2 meetings ago, not the one that was Monday, but the one before that, Kelly and Grady was there because Miss Gerhardt she had some medical problems. And they both basically said that they wasn't really in tune for it because they were thinking more along the lines of the power plant, the nuclear power plant, due to less ground taking, and they would hire more people, to do that than what the solar deal was doing. And that's why I was trying to find out if the whole solar deal, from the way it sounds, it's not really gonna produce any money.
And I don't think we really know that at this point.
To get those answers, it sounds like you're gonna have to talk to the actual county commission, because they're the ones who have been engaged with the power company, solar companies.
Well, you got to be able to talk to them, you gotta make a special deal on their agenda till you can talk to them.
You guys have to call up, get on the agenda.
So, but when 2 of the 3 are sitting there and they're saying that by going through the responsibilities and stuff, that they wasn't really leaning toward the solar deal like they was.
Well, I just, maybe I need to say that, and anybody else can chime in, what we're tasked to do is build these regulations out. So whether they have solar here, whether they have nuclear, whether they have nothing or something else, we're tasked with getting these regulations built out. That's all we're tasked with at this moment.
Well, I think one of the biggest regulations should be that the company that is putting the solar panels and stuff in, if it's come through by a natural disaster, which is anything from hail, tornadoes, or high winds, which is real regular in the area that they're wanting. And then the biggest problem is if that anything that they do that produces goes down, because that is one of the biggest areas for water source for Rossville, St. Mary's.
Right, and I hate to interrupt you, but we're not really talking about that area. We're talking about a county-wide regulation. So tomorrow, if they decide to put it north or somewhere else, that's what we're building here. We can't really be specific on the area. But there is an area, there is a part in these regulations where it talks about emergency cleanup and natural disasters. And so if you want to look into that and you want to change that, you want to discuss that.
I would think that it should be stated in there on a natural disaster that the company with the solar field are 100% liable for damages to coexisting property around the area and everything. And then that includes the water sources and everything else. Because everything I've read so far in the landowner agreement and the dwelling owner agreements and stuff, they're pretty well taken. Once they lease the ground out, it's their problem, from what I've read.
And in order to keep moving forward, is it possible for you to come back to the next time with specific language that you want to see addressed? Because we've spent, with all due respect, we've spent the last 11 months talking about this, and to go back and say, well, I think we need to do this, but what do you think about that? We've already talked about all that. So if you have something that you would specifically like to see,
Okay,
bring
well,
it back to us, and
okay.
then we can talk about something specific.
The question I have to ask is, has that been brought up before on the damage and stuff like that, that would be created by nature?
Yes, extensively.
And there is verbiage in here, I can find it. I can point to where that's at.
I think it's easy back.
So I thought that was one of the things that you even look at, is making sure that there was insurance coverage. This is product in the town hall meeting.
Yeah, and that's what I attempted to do when I talked to Evergy, but they didn't provide much guidance on that.
On one of the sections you might want to look at is on the last page, when you get home. It's under
Do you have a copy of this?
5.
I'm not seeing that.
That's what we've got so far.
Ernie, if you could save our time a little bit, if you could, does he have a paper, a printed copy of
I just gave it mine.
the latest one?
This one here for.
That's the only page I have.
Well, that's one good.
Yeah,
It's on mine's the next to the last one.
and I don't have
It's
nothing.
a really good, interesting read.
Well, this here.
You can reference it. You can reference it.
But
Yeah, but I was saying that, I heard that most of the names on the website, and you have to download it.
well, I'm not as young as you are, but
I would be wanting some of the stuff to be, I'm sure.
Okay,
So,
On mine is the next to the last one.
because I'm not,
Uh,
what do they call that, computer smart or whatever. If I can't read it, yeah.
5 extraordinary
well,
events.
you might have to be printing off all of that
Page 33.
paper.
page 33.
That's,
Page 33.
no, this is supposed to be our final draft, and that each one of us has a different copy, and that's what's incredible.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's.
We've
Well,
had
it's 'cause some people are working off of the older.
I know, and that's why I wrote when I got there.
Should be our section called extraordinary events.
All right. How many of you want copies of this?
Yes,
Yep, that's the same one I got.
yeah, and that should be the one posted on the website. What you have is the one prior to, that doesn't have these. So, did you print that off the website? Or did that the one came to you?
I thought it was the one she removed.
Okay,
I could,
well,
I mean,
yeah, we just need to all be on the same page, because we sit there and go, well, it's 17 on mine, but it's 16 on yours, and,
yeah.
because we've added things and moved things.
Yeah.
Trevor's got the most recent one
Go
on,
out and print off paper.
because he's on.
No, I can't print off.
Yeah,
I don't see anything. I actually forgot.
Why does he have really long ones?
How do you?
that's the final one.
That's the last one you gave us.
This is the working draft.
Yeah, I just took a paper clip off of it. That was it. I finally got rid of all the other, because I kept mixing them up.
Yeah,
It was,
No.
this is not it.
This should be the next one, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah, because this,
Because that,
right here is its own table of contents page.
That's the big, we got it.
yeah, so just
So-
print that out of those.
Is it aggregate? Maybe. I thought it was a lot.
You shouldn't
that's
have,
what I thought.
we should not have blue.
Yeah, we
This is
took all
the-
the blue, and didn't put dates
This
on
is
it.
the one we presented for public comment. Was what I thought.
Because it has the most colors in it.
This one right here, this is the one we worked on the last time because you guys, after the public meeting, you guys,
Change that and lock that in, yeah.
so this one is the one that we had, this should be the final one, like, where at the public meeting, or after the public meeting, you guys met and you took off a couple of things. Do you remember?
So you printed out a new one after that?
She can print one, so everybody has the same one that we're gonna write.
Probably.
Which is the one that I printed and I said, okay, everybody has their latest draft.
You said this is the last one we print until we get the last one done.
Yeah.
So none of you have this with the table of contents. It's its
I
own
think
page.
that was just simplifying it for the website, because I have that one too. That, I think, is,
I printed that one off the website.
Yeah, this one was handed out on August 14th.
and the solar public meetings were September. And then October was the next work session.
So how about you all pile, well, you probably have notes and stuff that you want to keep.
Yeah.
I'm
see if
gonna-
we can-
I'm gonna print off 9 of these, it's gonna take a while to print them all off, so,
Yeah, not tonight.
No, I mean, she's printing right now.
We can swing for the guy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we're working off different copies, so.
well, I'm gonna print them off and you are all gonna take them home with you tonight, so everybody's gonna be on the same page.
I'll write final on it. On all of them, so everybody knows.
I'm gonna, no more final.
What? No, it's alright.
That's not, that's the reason pages.
And then I'll read it in the trunk of my other car.
So,
It's gonna be a pain.
Well, I have to set mine down at the table where I do all my reading, and that way I'll know to read it.
Going back to this thing, Jason, I think it's great. But part of it brings up that, did we all get the email from the tribe? Kate sent out
I saw the
a week or two ago, the 25th, I guess it was. Basically, it brings up a scary point that it doesn't sound like, I mean, it sounds like they're going, and the way I'm interpreting it, Doug's an attorney, he's gonna probably chime in on it, but it sounds like they're gonna fight whatever we have as that they have jurisdiction. I don't know, did I read that incorrectly?
Well, they supposedly bought a bunch of ground down in there by where they.
This doesn't have anything to do with what they own, this is the original reservation boundaries.
Okay.
Not what they currently own or what they don't own. They're saying that they have jurisdiction over the original reservation boundaries.
That's a question for the county commission. And the
That's
county
right.
council, not for this body. Our task is.
Well, but we are the
come up
ones,
with the regulations.
we are the ones writing the regulations that this has, that has to be abided by.
Right.
And so they talk to the county commissioners, they're gonna say, go to the planning commission because they're writing the regulations.
We don't have the authority that you're mentioning. That's all held within the county board, county commission.
So did we not write the zoning regulations?
We write the zoning regulations, but we don't handle jurisdictional issues. Those are all held.
I'm just
by the
saying,
Board of County
it
Commissioners.
sounds like that they don't recognize and we're just setting ourselves up for a lawsuit. And just want to talk about it, if that's all there is to talk about it.
What to bring it up. That's really, I think,
What
the
are
county
your
commissioners.
thoughts on it?
I just quickly read it, I don't need to see it. think it brings up a lot of questions.
With,
I was ready to lease the house for a number of days and I was never coming off that time.
Let's get back to Jason's, Jason's,
It's an old.
well, I mean, that's what brings it up, just because they are landowners within 1
It
mile.
goes clear down to within a quarter of a mile of where the governor's mansion is across the river.
brings up a point. How much-
Part
So,
of this,
see, that's what
what
I'm saying,
Jason's
because
thought
right
they
now,
just did.
technically,
those landowners to sign off,
the
so.
south side of it
Which
is
is not
at 126th Road.
at least in the first.
And then it goes
The
within
company has to, you know, whatever
It's
company
12
has to notify.
miles wide.
Yeah, this is
126.
Oh, 11 by 11.
But
Right of refusal that we, at least in the current.
it's one of those deals, and they're getting to the point
Do
that
do we want
they're
to
getting, trying to push more and more and more.
start that?
And that's just like the ground where they're putting that great big truck stop and stuff
We might
in.
get that same question on any other project.
It wasn't even on the old reservation.
A dog kennel.
And they went in there and bought all that ground, and that's why our taxes were raising. Because once they buy it and put it into a tribal trust,
Then to be legally,
it goes off the
it's
tax.
less defensible to not allow people to move any other project.
We don't really want to talk about history of.
If the county's wanting growth,
the tribes, because it's.
maybe that's not exactly the thing to do.
Which one are we talking about now, the proposal or the letter?
I'm talking about the our current proposal, looking at the proposal to actually create a line, create an ability for neighbors to not sign on, thereby preventing the county revenue that Ernie was asking about through a new project of whatever kind.
I guess I'm in favor of that, and so just go from there.
Too much.
Hmm?
Too much. Too long.
Well, I agree, I don't think
You'd like to see some agreement.
Well, I think this conversation should also be tied to the setbacks too. Like, right now we have how far is the setback
1320 from a residence,
for residents?
300 feet from a property line.
And we put that in there.
So this would actually almost, if somebody was closer than that, they would have to get these people to sign off. I don't know,
Right. That, if you were 500 yard or 500 feet from it, that means the project couldn't happen there. But if you had to sign off on it, they compensated you, maybe you'd allow that lesser setback.
Yeah.
So, yes, it can kind of double up on things.
It can go both ways. It
Mhm.
can go good and stuff. So then, I think this is primarily directed toward a large utility style project. They tend to submit specific comments to us regarding any code development outside the reservation, so I'm hoping they'll go ahead and send it to us soon.
I do kind of agree that the 3 miles might be a little much.
What do you think about storm cleanup and stuff like that? Maybe just for people who would make sure that within 3 miles, make sure that we got something right and clean it up. Could we use it somewhere like that?
Well, but that's what I think that the negative idea on this is that someone at the 3 mile boundary, if they don't sign off, just because they don't want it no matter what, that was what Bob said, if they ask for $1 million, and I'm not signing it unless you give me $1 million, then that's part of the application process. And I mean,
there's a lot of room.
I think it would be more at 3 miles, even maybe at 2 miles, to get everybody compensated. I mean, if you did, a property owner within a half mile and a residence within a mile, that might shrink it down.
I would think that's awful close for the wind damage that, for like on a tornado, how far it'll carry that stuff.
Well, I think this was mostly trying to address the public's concerns about what's going to do to their property values, what's going to be their way of life, giving them the control to have a say in that. Instead of just,
Right, and it puts in place, I'm a perfect example. That's why I went around and talked to all of my neighbors, because I only own 8 acres. I don't have any business, in my opinion, telling my neighbor that lives off of his land what he can do with it.
yeah, I mean,
And so, in this way, hey, little old Dave Anderson with 8 acres of land doesn't want to see solar panels right across the street. I like the idea, okay, you're gonna give me some assurances, but in the end, this could shut it down.
well,
So because of what the agreement would be,
Well,
is now we've got to get into that.
it would shut it down if a participating landowner said no, right? If every landowner said no, we don't want it, it wouldn't happen anyway. So
Right.
if you don't own the land that's right, that it's going on, you don't have any recourse at this moment. This allows a little bit more control of the people that are going to also be affected by this. So shrinking it down, that's fine.
Or just keep number 1 and remove number 2.
If you had just all landowners within a mile, it didn't matter if they were residents or not. And I don't know how to say to sign off, I mean, some kind of agreement,
Yeah.
I don't want to put it in there that, that one person can shut the whole thing down, but yet they need to be compensated. I mean, if they're willing to compensate the participating landowners,
Right.
why can't you compensate those who, I don't know,
The way I'm reading, when I read, any of those, 1 or 2, any one party can stop the whole project.
Well, they just have to move it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't stop it, they would have to move it.
Move it to an area that,
Yeah.
But then the same thing can happen at the other location.
It could, or it couldn't.
Happen.
I mean, you're playing the, maybe it could, maybe it wouldn't, I don't
That's
know.
what we need to consider.
Yeah.
but that's giving those people who are directly affected a chance to not be, to not be directly affected. I mean,
But it takes away income from the people who have leased their
Right.
land. So where's the balance?
But then you lose the property value of the guys next to the farm.
It's the yin and the yang, because the other way is the same way.
Really, the issue is
Exactly right.
how's it gonna affect the property values? The guys, they're thinking their property value's going up. Is it really gonna affect
I
them?
don't think the value will go up, it'll be the income might go up, but
So it's everyone thinking on these 3.
We need to get to the bottom of this. I need to turn in and get some cut of my valuation. The neighbor took this nice rangeland and turned it into a soybean stubble. My property values must have went down.
that's still an ag.
So you think it's good to get rid of 2?
I think we mow it over for a while and then bring it back up and. take
Okay.
I don't see where the problem is with the 3 mile deal.
Then you had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, why not?
Yeah.
I believe he's just looking at this. this that you have right there.
Okay, talk about this at our next work session.
Is a dwelling owner going to
Oh,
be
you
encompassed in the
Think
landowner?
about it.
Definition.
That can help.
I think so, because they would own the property.
Because when you read the definition, it just says anybody holding a legal title of a real property. So I'm going to assume, yes, landowner also means dwelling owner. So you could effectively eliminate that and consolidate them. You just want to be sure the language here does not exclude homeowners in any way, because those are the ones who are probably the most concerned about their property value, not so much the ag base and what the impact of the solar would be there.
That's what I was thinking. That's why yeah. Because somebody with cows may not, they might not care, but if you live right next door, then you do.
That could impact your resale value too.
But it hasn't been proven. Where is it at? This is a vague, we need something concrete to move.
But in all this writing, is there anything that states how big a section or how much ground they can acquire to build this on?
2,000 acres. 2,000 acres.
Not to exceed 2,500.
That's crazy. 2,000 acres, that's what?
Almost 3 miles.
Yeah.
But before we get drawn into that, it sounds like we're really close on this piece. So are we good then with just changing the dwelling owner to 1 mile and keeping both of them the same amount? That way then we're sure that they're both covered. I also don't know our process. Do we have to vote?
Do we, I don't think we have to make a, no, we don't, we just decide, I think.
In a work session, we can just, if somebody disagrees with something, then we can say, all right, let's vote on it.
Right, yeah.
Rather than making a motion, I think, just.
So we really just need a majority consensus.
So we changed the 3 to 1?
Yeah, he's pointing out that dwelling owners and landowners are the same thing.
They might not be.
Not necessarily.
Dwelling owner could be a manufactured home that's someone else that owns that versus the landowner. So,
Right, they could be leasing, they could be renting out,
Yeah, there you go.
they could be renting out a house that's.
Well, and that's the thing that I don't know about a tenant. Because if you're renting, then there is a property owner.
Right, and it's the property owner.
The property owner that you want, not the tenant, because the tenant could change.
Yes,
That's what dwelling is.
so, which is exactly as
I think both of these,
James wrote.
whether you go off of the legal title to real property from landowner to justify the homeowner, or the dwelling owner, when it says it is the owner of record. I think you could fall back into one of those, just to ensure we're not talking about tenants.
Right.
Okay, back to my original question. Let me reread this one more time. Am I missing something here, or if we change the number 2 to 1, isn't that the same, and we're talking about the landowner, isn't that the same as number 1 landowner agreement?
Technically, it was just
We're talking
if there
about
was,
landowner, not-
it was just trying to clarify that,
Whether it's dwelling or landowner.
it really shouldn't matter because a dwelling is on land and there is a title to that. So I think technically landowner covers it. I think it was just trying to make sure that you covered a manufactured home.
And recognizing there is a difference between the two.
And
I guess so, you could say, okay, well,
Yeah.
somewhere, maybe the commissioner want to change that. They would have to change all the wording to the whole thing and make a new thing. You could address that pretty easily by just changing that to 2, if that's what they decide to do on another round or something.
How would the dwelling owner be different from the landowner?
Right. Well, because the landowner might own 80 acres of pasture land, or the landowner may own 80 acres or how many acres with a house on it.
is the difference.
But if someone owned it was 8 acres,
Yeah.
or 3 acres.
Or 8 acres, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it's in a lot, that's a half an
Still
acre.
a landowner.
It's still titled
Oh,
as land, so
yeah, they are.
in rural areas, that's, I mean, I think in order to simplify it so it doesn't get too crazy, maybe just classifying it as owner of title, or however it says in the definitions, just in one.
I would leave it as defined now, just change it to the 1 mile in a second. I mean, not
I
just us
think-
looking at it, it's the general public looking at it, and it'll be clear to them.
It acknowledges that there is a difference.
It's acknowledges there's a difference.
And that's fine.
Doug, another question I have could it be interpreted as saying that there needs to be, and I can't imagine a situation where the dwelling owner is different from the landowner, 2 agreements are required from a single party for a particular piece of land, the way it's written.
I think however they draft that, agreement, it would cover both. I mean, they could easily see to draft that up if that's the case, if they're concerned about that.
So also we just want to require one agreement for a particular property, not multiple.
I think if they signed off on one, they would sign for both.
Okay, change number 2 to 1 mile, is that?
That's the simple thing for right now.
Consensus? Okay, no objection to that. So I think you already covered the public notice requirements.
Oh, sorry. Well, he's talking about changing
This
the
page.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was
That's your
thinking,
intro.
well, I was thinking it would probably remove this section 4.2, additional public notice. That's on page 16. It starts there. It talks about, letting everybody know within a mile, written notification. It talks about all the requirements as far as the notice. So I'm thinking if we're requiring an agreement,
You could just replace that whole section. Because otherwise it's gonna be, talking
Redundant.
to both sides, and it's,
So basically, we changed it from requiring notice to these people to an agreement. Yes, it's what we do.
it does still require that written notice. It just doesn't go into all the elaborate hows and reasons why.
have an agreement. Where you're going beyond, and you're saying where they're gonna have to sign off and have an agreement, which is a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we don't know what this agreement consists of.
We can't regulate that from what I understand. I mean, we can't say what, it's not up to us to say that they have to or they.
Well, the next question though that I have is why can't this be voted on by the public to even let it in Jackson County? Because I can tell you right now, of the people I've talked to don't want them to talk. So I mean, it couldn't be up to, what are you saying?
That's probably something you can talk to commissioners about as well.
Well, the commissioners are basically passing it back to here when I'm talking about.
That question they have addressed multiple times, and you could ask them, and they'll tell you the same thing again.
And I'll tell you, what you've said multiple times, that we're not changing what they had, and we have hardly changed what they gave us. So we're passing, the ball's being passed back and forth, and that's what.
No, I'm just saying, the public vote is not up to us. The commissioners have addressed the public vote multiple times. why they don't put it to a public vote, because.
Well, but if we put it in there that it needs to be okayed by the county public vote, how does that not carry weight to the commissioners then? Because what we're going through right now carries weight to the commissioners.
We can't,
It's exactly the same thing. Right here, he's just putting in here that one person could shut this down. And that's when the county commissioners are interested in making tax money for Jackson County. And they want us to come up with something that can make tax money and make everybody happy enough that they'll still elect them.
Well, the question is,
Well, if you had a car lot, let's say, I'm just trying to think, if you're gonna build a car lot, then you write regulations and people, you don't think want a car lot, they don't put it to a public vote. I think there's a process in place, right?
and the state legislature sets those rules, not us. So we can't just ask for a public vote. That's what the commissioners have said. It's set by the state legislature, they have to give permission
okay.
to put,
Well, I
unless
just
it's a
had a
sales,
question.
unless it's a sales tax
The
issue.
only way you can learn is ask the question.
Yeah.
Right.
I would have a major concern with using the proposed language to replace what we already have in our document. The reason being there are some legal requirements under state law for notification, and if you look at the existing wording we have in our document, I believe it's more specific about what that mailing is, what the company needs to include in that mailing.
But this isn't just a mailing.
Yeah, and that's what.
What this is talking about is a mailing that's sent out to the property owners, and all that is just an informational thing. This is an agreement that has to come back. So yes, this says what needs to be in that mailing, but we're not sending out a mailing. We're telling them they gotta go get an agreement.
So this is the same written notice, within a mile, which was the header of that. And then the appraised, now this is in addition to the planning mail notice, that there'll be a public hearing. So written notice still needs to go out. But then also the requirements of an agreement on top of that. And so if there's stuff that I just,
But you've already just stated that the public notice doesn't mean nothing because the public can't vote.
well, they have to let everybody within a mile.
Meaning someone 20 miles away doesn't have any say. It's the property owner directly affected by it.
Basically, it doesn't matter.
Jason, what's.
I don't know, I
catching me up here?
I got that.
Did you say that you want to replace all of, section 4, part 2 with this?
Well, that was just my initial thought, is that we don't have to do
That
that.
are still in 4.2 that need to stay there.
Okay, then,
Now, we might be able to supplement that.
yeah.
We might be able to supplement that if that's possible.
So just to clarify, Jonathan, what is in there?
On my copy, okay, if you go, everyone goes to.
We should have the same copy now.
Right, you should have the same copy. Section 4, item 2, additional public notice.
That section, our new one has no blue in it.
What
So
page
you're
is it?
still on the old one.
I know, but that hasn't changed.
Well, you're supposed to get, that's why you print it out, so it's all be on the same page.
So we're on section, or page 16 and 17.
Like to see this.
Page 15, you said?
I don't think 16 quite follow.
16 and 17.
The one thing that I'm seeing is dropped, and what the importance, I think it's somewhere, it's about the part where they provide a time and place for a neighborhood meeting between To me, that means that people are getting the same information. Is that something we talk about?
Well, I guess, I mean, what I see the purpose of this is that all property, what's stated in this, is all property owners within 1 mile shall receive notification, which is any zoning application that people come before. It's within 1,000 feet, they're all notified. That's within 1 mile. That's redundant because we're asking for every property owner within 1 mile to be notified and get an agreement. So they don't need to send out a letter to those because they're going to have to come back with their signature. So they know that they've been notified. This is just a mailing so that they can say they've been notified of the project.
Because that's all this document requires is notification.
Yes. But this replacement is that notification.
So it says, shall be sent with a brief description of the project. Letters to be sent. Property owners and interested parties.
So
There are additional legal rights to challenge.
everybody in 3 miles.
Kind of thing, we're requiring it, their challenge would be not to sign off.
Yeah, but now they want to change it down to 1 mile.
Responsible, a certified property owner. Yes, prior to.
This is all about landowner and non-landowner rights. It's what we're advocating.
I don't know if we necessarily require neighborhood meetings. If we require an agreement,
I think that's the question. What part of the existing piece are we worried about losing?
I don't see any of it being an issue if it goes, but I could be wrong too. So,
I don't see anything that needs to stay.
You're responsible, of course, your office for sending out the notices.
That would be for the actual public hearing on it. This would be in advance when they submit all of the items.
It would be on them to do this, not us, right?
Yeah, the responsibility for the office is after they submitted all of this and I check that they have all their agreements in place, whatnot, and all the other items that they need to submit to you all, then I would have to publish it in the paper for a public hearing. And it'd be 1,000 foot, or we could set another boundary.
So can they go
1,000 foot.
in, can we go in there and make it till, if it gets ready to get put in, that everybody that owns property within 3 miles of this deal has to vote on it? It has to be put up, and they have to sign instead of,
That's what.
That's what-
That's what this is, so within 1 mile.
It's
Yeah,
not
that's what the document says.
yeah, because it's a transaction.
What did you do?
That's what this is really.
It's an agreement. Your vote.
so why wouldn't you leave it at 3 miles?
Because that's gonna be hard to get that many people.
Because those are people that aren't even affected. How far, 1 mile's actually,
Well, they can be infected in a tornado, because look, just go
well,
back.
that's another, but that, no, you got a good point, that we need to make sure that they can't pull this, it's an act of God and we're not responsible.
Yeah.
They go pick up their solar
It's-
panels.
The reason, I guess, because if you put it out that far, in case there was a tornado, that one person could hold up the entire project in case there's a tornado.
Right.
But that's not, I mean, you can add stipulations about recovery in the case of a tornado, but you can't say that I want to stop this because there could be a tornado.
Obviously,
So-
two separate things.
That's where it would never, we could never make it work to go out to 3 miles. I think it's a pretty good consensus to
Then
keep
drop it to 2.
We're kind of pretty good with 1.
You either vote, we can, I guess.
So do you want to put in anything about the minimum site criteria or size, and the qualifications that people should receive prior to these agreements, so that people know they're getting the same information as everybody else? I mean, does that make sense?
No, yeah, let's say that again.
Like landowner A and landowner B, or homeowner A and B, how do we ensure that everybody's getting the similar information prior to these agreements about the size of the project, et cetera, which is what this neighborhood meeting deal is trying to address to some degree. And so I'm just
I see what you're
trying to
saying.
see
That's,
how we make sure all these people
Got the same.
are on the same playing field
Got the same agreement.
and have received the same information.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so we could say, number 1 is the mail written notice, we could add what needs to be as part of that. Is that what you need?
Yeah, take some of the language that you had in the old one, whatever that.
So let's talk about what you guys want to keep, so that way I can go back and.
is there another way to do this? And that is,
Some of what you're saying is that some of the leaseholders are getting more money than others because of how they arrange their contract.
Well, no, I'm just wanting everybody to have the same basic knowledge about the project.
right, which is on everyone should be the new copy of page 17. What if instead of taking stuff out of the existing language, we instead add, for example, number 1 and number 2 from Jason's? The landowner agreement is the dwelling owner agreement.
Section D. So you're saying continue to have the notice, mail notice,
Yeah.
the public hearing,
Right, because all that's required. Right, and then we'll add the 2 agreements that have been discussed tonight.
I need to refresh myself on the public hearing. Is that when I hear public hearing, I believe that's open to everyone, this should only be open to those who are being affected in this radius.
Open to everyone.
I
think.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
All the public.
There's a difference between, we're talking right now a situation where a landowner has no rights. All they have the right to know about it is the project, period. They have no other recourse. Okay, so that means, yeah, you gotta have public meetings, you gotta make sure everybody's well informed about what's going on. They should have, but when you're talking about all these people that are in this section, the same people that are in this section, we're requiring a written agreement. So I'm not sure, the intent of this is to make sure that the people close by are well informed, okay?
But
And that's all
they
it
can
goes.
do about it. I mean, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, all they can do is go
It's
to the
just,
public hearing.
here you are, you know about it. Here you go.
So if now we're requiring them to have a written agreement, that goes further than this, and so some of these things don't necessarily fit into that, right? You're gonna require them to bring everybody in a public hall meeting, and then you're gonna require them to all go sign. It doesn't seem like that's the conducive way that they would go about it.
Right.
That makes
And
sense?
that's going to be, each person should be entitled to
Yeah.
their own negotiation.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
that if you may sign for $100 and I may fight for $1,000.
Should the landowner agreement and the dwelling owner agreement actually go in, not in a public notice section, but in the application, the list of documents that are required to be submitted as part of the application?
we can look at it.
Is that what you're, that's?
Well, I was just trying to think where would this fit in?
And that's what you originally started with, I thought. was one of two places.
Mhm.
We're trying to figure it out.
So how about in between 1 and 2?
Still,
Yeah.
so to be on the same section, still page 17 or 16.
Or you ought to make it items N and O, or make it item,
But I still think that whole section 2 is redundant within a mile. I mean, at that point, you could do the notification out to 3 miles. That they have to send a letter to everyone at 3 miles. But
The agreement, those who actually get, are truly impacted.
it's just at the 1 mile. So then it would be a separate section. But to say that the additional public notice is the exact same people that are gonna have a contract or whatever, an agreement signed, it's redundant. And maybe this is where we need to
sometimes.
hold off on this to give
Right,
you a chance to gather your thoughts.
Yeah, sometimes, well, and sometimes maybe a little bit of redundancy is not a bad thing.
Well, but this is more than redundant if you keep the requirements for a public hearing. Because the intent of this, I keep going back and saying, the intent of this is informing a landowner that has nothing, that there's nothing they can do about this. And we are gonna require that they go through all these steps to make sure that the public is well informed. That's what all these things, that's what the intent is behind this. So, but after this is all done, it's over, and they go home and the thing gets built. So that's the roadmap to get people informed. This is an agreement requirement to where you wouldn't require both. You know what I mean? You wouldn't
You
require
have to.
public meetings.
You have to require, under state law, there have.
That's still the requirement
Right,
for the CUP application.
right,
That's still in place.
right.
This is just, because this isn't a public notice. This isn't a public
This
requirement.
is the private, right, the one-on-one conversations with the company.
But even what's already written in here is not legal. There's nothing in here about public notice and this and that. This is just, we're telling the company that they have to notify everybody within 1 mile of this project. That's not public notice, that's not statutory. The public notice, they're still notified before, when they come to do the application process before us, then they are notified. That's when the statutory notification comes into play. The way that number 2 is just telling people that are in the direct path what's happening.
Basically sooner than the rest.
Yeah. Saying, we're gonna file this application, here's your notice that we're doing it. And then 30 days or whatever prior to, the appraiser's office will send out a notification to those within 1,000 feet.
The meeting will occur on such and such a day.
Yeah, but that's only in 1,000 feet, right? So this is an additional, we're moving it out to 1 mile, but those people are already gonna be notified because of this agreement that they have to sign.
And possibly we could just change, well, among the changes could be change that 1/2 mile under number 2, go into that first paragraph to that 1 mile. But then we still need to add in the requirement for the applicant to submit those written agreements.
Isn't that the part that's statute required? That's what you send out?
It says this is in addition to the planning office's mail notification of the public hearing.
To have a mile,
The public hearing.
public hearing.
Public hearing is, they've applied, they've submitted all of these things, then it goes before you all. And
Right,
it's
so that
published in.
second one's a statute you're talking about, is that right? So we can't change that, right? That's the only.
Well, you could add, keep that language in it. This is in addition to, which just says additional public notice. This is in addition to,
That's what it says on number 2.
yes. So that paragraph or that parentheses sentence could stay,
It's already in there.
yes. But if we're talking about striking out the rest of it and replacing it with your draft,
Well, it's in the new draft, I think, under number 2 of the mail notice requirement. On page.
oh, okay, perfect. So, yeah. I wasn't following you there, so sorry.
But we can't change that, that's your change. I was just coming up with what you said, how we change this half mile thing.
I mean, we cannot go lower. We cannot legally go lower, to a lower distance. I'm not an attorney, but I wouldn't see a restriction on increasing that. I don't have to agree to that.
But yeah, this doesn't change anything with the statutory.
No, we can't.
Right. So I still don't see why we need any of what we have currently.
I mean, it says the same thing.
Right.
I mean, you all were just talking about changing it from 1 mile to possibly 3 miles on the additional public notice in the company.
Right. I mean, that's just something you could throw in there. But
I mean, so so C here, all of that is already in there, correct? So you want me to change it? To say
Well,
the
my
same
thought
thing?
was that maybe we put in just the section for this and say, okay, maybe this is section 4 and the next, and remove section 5 to 5. And this is just to address public notice and public agreements. Because there is no just one paragraph that we can swap, you know what I mean? It just seemed like it was on its own subject almost. So
But
that's,
this is part of the application and required documents section. You know, so all of that is required
Mhm.
for application.
Okay, so maybe we need to take out number 2 and change it, reformat this to where it fits into that.
Or adding in what you're wanting to add in
Before number 2, because it's part of the
on the
application.
agreements part.
Insert this document.
No, I'm saying we take this and we get rid of number 2.
No.
what is in number 2?
What do you need to keep?
What is in 2 that we don't have in the new draft?
These 2 are the only things that are the original. And this just talks about.
Someone tell me what I am missing here. Under number 2 in our existing rules.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, there is there's a A1, talks about the certified list and where that is obtained from, so that people just obviously trying to avoid anyone not being notified. It should be.
You don't see it in the proposed draft?
So this says that, this is saying the certified list needs to be obtained from Jackson County within 30 days of the meeting date. So this format puts that onus on the appraiser zoning planning office to verify the completeness of the list, property ownership list, and written agreements.
They would normally get that list from your department anyway.
If somebody wants a 1 mile buffer or 3 mile buffer list on landowners, they can do it on their own if they know how to work the map, or they would call our office to get that, right? So like the Excel list that I give you all saying these are the neighbors that were notified in the 1,000 foot, that's what they would get, except it would be a lot larger, right? Because it's a larger area. So our office would run that report.
And it has to be a certified list from the appraiser like this. Do you have that liberty to do that, would it be the same?
The certified list is something that they're obtaining. They're not providing us. They go obtain a certified list.
Right,
And that's who they have to mail it to,
right.
not at the expense of the county.
No, they pay the county
Right.
whatever fees the county has for that.
But they're gonna get that certified list from the county and then have to come back with a signed agreement from each one of those. And in the verification, the planning office would then go and say, check, 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 check.
Yeah.
Okay, we got them all.
Because this one was talking about they have to get that list within 30 days of the mailing date. I think that the idea was if there was any change of hands maybe of ownership or they can't use one from 2 years ago and do it, but we would have the
They
verification.
can't get an agreement with somebody, so they go back and find all the
Yeah.
rest.
I mean, all this is saying that we sent a letter out to tell you that we were doing this. And it says in there that failure to receive such notice is not grounds to invalidate any action. Well, that's moot because they have to have their signature on them. You can't come back and say, well, I didn't know about it because they have to provide an agreement from each person.
So you're saying that they need, everybody that's got a deal sent to them that's signed, has to be 100% signed, but they can't put the solar deal in.
In order to apply for a permit, they would have to provide that
100% signed.
That's what it says, yeah.
from each
See,
landowner.
if you look at number 3, that'd be on that sheet right there, the one right there, number 3 on that.
Okay, so basically it does state that it has to be 100% signed or it's automatically gone.
Can't even process the application.
Do you need to put in something as of the date of the application?
What's that?
Just apply.
It's part of this section 4 that in order to apply, you have to have this whole list of things done.
I meant the landowners as of, okay, so somebody's trying to sell a property, there's a sale, proposed versus actual.
Right.
Or if this is put in and then somebody sells it. Yes. That's their problem, I guess.
I would,
Yeah, I guess that's the.
An overlap here.
I mean, what you're saying is if you signed it, but then I bought your property 30 days before this, and I'm the new property owner, but I didn't sign it.
There's various scenarios that are.
Yeah, that would be verified through you, right? You would see that. When it comes in,
Not necessarily.
necessarily.
you would see any kind of change that's happening.
Well, that could,
Potential
closing on those could be a while.
There's potential overlap of weeks to months.
And how do I know what's
Who owns-
disclosed in
Yeah,
the
Yeah, they're
sale?
doing title search.
So you can put all property owners within 30 days of the application date. So if the property changed 25 days before the application date, they would need that property owner. Whoever owned the property 30 days prior, before the application date would be who has to be signed off. And if you sold your property to me and didn't disclose that.
Yeah, that's another issue between the owners. Yeah, it's between the owners.
So this is saying that there needs to be, a list for the public notice meeting that they put on, that's a 1 mile or 3 mile, whatever you're saying, so there's that list that they send these notifications out to. There'll have to be another list for the 1 mile people that are gonna be signing agreements.
Yeah, the 1 mile
Well,
will be the one that have to sign it.
But the first one you said, we're not necessarily need to require that at this point.
Why not? Isn't that what it says in here?
That's what it currently says. But if we get rid of that section,
The only thing I said about moving out to 3 miles was this mailer.
Yeah, I guess more
Yeah.
people,
And I didn't, I mean, that was just a possibility, maybe we can do that.
Well, that would give them a right to talk to the landowners, you know, to voice their opinion. By leaving it to the 3 mile, but everybody they have to contact would be in a mile of where it's going. And they have to be the one to sign it.
I mean, we don't currently push that out to 3 miles, I mean, on this, so I'd say let's just not send out that additional.
so what do you think we should keep in there?
I mean, we're still gonna have to, I mean, if we want to do an extra notice to the people, you know, regarding the agreements, no problem with that.
What do you mean? Extra notice for the,
Yeah. Regarding the proposal, we're gonna still have to do the public notice.
That's not public notice, though. That's not public.
Public notice for the public hearing.
Yes, but that is not in 2. That is not anywhere in 2. 2 is additional public notice
from the company.
Right,
from the company.
that's true.
That's what we're requiring with this new draft, is the additional. That's where it says, this is in addition to the planning office mailed notification of the planning commission public hearing. And that is in number 3. No,
Two.
the C, mail notice requirement. This mailing is in addition to.
Especially
Which is
the one
2.
going out in the paper.
Yes, yeah.
That's basically, regulatory statute.
I think that's 2. C is 2.
Just you had some comments a couple minutes ago regarding differences in language.
I was just trying to find what was different with the certified list of property owners. I wasn't sure what that was, but see that's what they give, if they know or use. But I didn't figure that, I didn't know where they got their list of property owners. And then the other one was, there's nothing about a neighborhood meeting. I kind of agree with what Doug was saying, if everybody went to a meeting, they would all have the same information, or at least find out they didn't have the same information. Otherwise, it comes out of the public hearing here. But if they were gonna do the.
Well, but that goes, I mean, the only thing with that is it takes out the ability to negotiate. Because then they're all sitting there going, well, hey, let's hold out for $1 million. If you put them all together, the company's not gonna be able to negotiate.
I was just saying, that's the only 2 things I could find that weren't
Yeah.
already over here.
The reason for the certified mailing list is to ensure that everybody received that, so that they sent it out. But they're coming back with a signed document, because in this, they don't have to sign anything that they got it. If they said, well, I didn't receive that mailer, doesn't matter, you don't have any say. But if you gotta come back with your signature on a piece of paper, then you know that you were talked to about it.
And that's the way it should be. They should have to sign it to make it 100% legal.
That's what Jason's proposal is. Because my concern was, could you define proposed development to a few terms as it's in your original one, and then just add a little bit of language so that everybody gets the same basic information?
Doug, are you talking about item 2 at the top of page 17 on the new copy? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's the only place I've really seen it so far, and even that's pretty minimal.
I was gonna say that.
We've got proposed development, which is less so, get a little bit more information on page 17, and I don't.
But again, if you make every person receive the same document, it's gonna be harder to get everybody to sign off on it.
Plus, if we're gonna require them to have sign off, I don't know if we can require them to say, this is how you're gonna do it.
Right, all you have to do is have the company provide you with a document that is signed by the landowner, and each one of them can be different.
Yeah.
Each one of them can say, I'm gonna give you $5 in pig, and whatever, I mean.
Right. People that are closer would probably be able to have more negotiating power than folks that are further out.
Or that don't have, people that live there might might hold out for a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
In order to make it fly, that's the way we're going to have to do it.
Would that be an argument for, as was mentioned a little bit ago, adding another section specific to those agreements?
But I think that's what this section is, in my opinion.
You need to have a load.
Well, I was kind of wondering if we just propose and then come back to the next time,
Okay.
so that everybody, I would propose that we replace section 2, additional public notice, with Jason's draft in its entirety.
Subsection 2.
Okay, subsection. Section 4, subsection 2. And take all of that out and replace it with this draft.
And with the mile.
And with the mile.
And substituting for,
And that way, we can come back and you can say, this is where I think it, whatever.
Yeah,
Because we're gonna sit here and,
at least get it in there. Okay.
yeah. Because Jonathan's trying to read, figure, do all this and that.
The whole thing,
Oh, the whole thing?
the whole thing go and replace
So take it out till right above 3 on page 17, right?
subsection.
Yep.
Because it essentially says the same. I mean,
You said hold up.
but if they
4-3.
say agreement, yeah, that's necessary. Well, that's probably an additional notice for the getting impact, but it's looking at
The only other thing you mentioned earlier was on C, the mailed out notice requirement. Do you want to, on the replacement that we're proposing to look at, include something about within 30 days of the application?
There should be a
All
time limit.
registered. Or
the-
just put it in the definition of landowner within 30 days of the application. Yeah.
You're talking about defining the landowner, make sure they're the landowner.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that they're the registered property, yeah.
Basically, the proposal was to take all of this, replace subsection 2, change within 30 days, and change 1 mile.
Yeah, because they're not 30 days within written notice,
No,
but
the-
the owner,
The registered owner 30 days prior to,
Certified list, so this one right here,
so we can
Keep
change
that
the
and just
definition
put it
between
in.
these two.
under,
mail notice requirement.
so that'll be 3, number 3. Does that sound good? So this right here.
taking the sentence of I.
That right there will keep.
You put under the
And
mail.
put under,
Instead of mailing date, application date.
That takes care of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
You want to just highlight it on mine? Highlight.
Could be different cut.
So we're keeping 1 mile. What about that? Oh, that's coming out anyway.
Because that's in there. It's in 2.
Okay, so we'll just cross that out. So are we gonna, how are we titling it? Additional public notice? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, agreement requirements.
Agreement requirements.
And, yeah, additional public notice and agreement.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Basically what it says on the top. So would it be easier to just strike that?
Yeah, I'm gonna
And start
strike,
over.
well, I'm gonna strike everything out of that. Cause I wanna keep that intact. I'll figure it out.
Are you ready to move on?
Didn't you have something?
Yeah, did that cover everything that you've done?
Yeah.
Rob? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I was looking at some infrastructure, things, you know, like roads, other needs. You have a document that has a little logo here at the bottom. This is from Lynn County, Iowa. This is their section related to public infrastructure, things like roads, ditches, that sort of thing. This is very similar to our current wording. Just a second. Find the page it's on. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, top of page 121 on your new copies, traffic and road maintenance plan. So I'll let everyone kind of look over our current,
What page is our current?
it's on page 21 of the new copy. Titled number 6, traffic and road maintenance plan. Coincidentally, Lynn County's is also topic 6 under a different numbered section. You'll see that the language is organized differently, but it's basically covering the same thing with one addition.
So we're planning to study the existing proposed haul routes, construction traffic. This one was, these require security. Right?
Now there's
The escrow,
there's a requirement, but there might also, our ESCOs, I think, are mostly down at the end of towards the end of our document, so
so it looks like these guys had a separate escrow for the roads, right?
Right.
Or bond. Remain in effect up to 12 months post-construction. Another survey. And that goes to an engineer.
in addition, you'll see that last item C under the Lynn County rules, they try to address any damage to the surface drainage system, which of course would be the ditches along the roadways, which might technically be part of the roadway, but just to cover that so there's no doubt in their mind that, hey, we want to make sure you take care of that part too. It's not just the driving surface.
Yeah, 'cause they're running into that with the rock quarries. Where they are. Because you go out 142 and it's a mess. That's getting full. I mean, there's holes that big around 6 inches deep, and that's a main thoroughfare.
So I am not suggesting we replace our language with Lynn counties. What we could do is just make some smaller edits possibly to ours if people want to include some things.
I like the agreement. And the guarantee escrow. It's just a separate escrow that is good for 12 months after construction's done to make sure
Just in
that.
case there's loose some, damage that doesn't show up for a while.
There was also, I don't know if it's addressed somewhere later on, but one of the things I've heard about is if they do more construction 10 years down the road. I mean, yeah, they come in and fix the roads after the first time, but then they come back. And how do you, is that something that the commissioners have to do in their agreement as opposed to in the regulations? I mean, I don't know.
I would think that after it was first, once it's put in, then it's up to the county commissioners to set the guidelines of road maintenance and who's responsible for it.
Well, if we wrote it to where we had this agreement as part of this, then later on when we say further construction, we could reference, any further construction activities needs to have a road agreement similar to this section back here at the beginning. Is that way? Did that address that construction stuff down the road?
I think if they're gonna add on to it, they should have to
Another
take care of the
agreement.
roads, yeah.
Not only add on, but go in repair or anything.
Yeah, so anything that contains major traffic.
About to be reviewed every,
Yep.
however many years.
In the post-construction, it says it's supposed to be reviewed every
All
3
roads
years.
and depths of mitigation.
There you go.
But this
I thought
is
there was
the,
something
I
about
think
that.
it was something,
it's on page 30,
30.
subsection 2.
Page 30?
So that's reviewing any standard of the conditional use permit.
Every 3 years. And it specifically says the 1 year after the release of the certificate of occupancy. Which is the same as that 12-month security.
Well, that pretty well covers it right there.
What's it cover?
Well, it just states that if basically in a 3-year period, that if it doesn't comply, then the zoning administrator has to go in and refer to the violations that they committed on the road.
Okay. What happens?
Well, the way that reads is that they have, to determine the compliance and everything like that. And it states right there that the commissioner to issue the order from the hearing on a conditional use permit.
On page 32, it talks about non-compliance and penalty.
So I don't know how to write the bond part of it into the road agreement. Because I think that should be something in the commissioner's agreement. But that was one of the troubles we had with them on the power line that went through, was they had to threaten to sue and take a year just to get the $700,000. Whereas if there was a bond sitting there that they could just grab, but I don't know how to put that into the regulations, I guess. You know, have it for decommissioning.
I bet we could figure out that language with the use of some
Did you,
tech
did you
assistance.
talk about this one?
Well, they-
Did you- you reached out?
What they wrote is pretty good. Did you read their?
Yes, I'm trying to
Or have they reworded?
figure how to
That's the final wording.
require that, I guess.
So I've not looked at the original wording, because it was different.
Because didn't it have some regs and then they added some? and
Right,
changed
they had, the Lynn County project, Ernie was in the new people. They did it in two phases. They did phase one, and Lynn County had one set of rules for that phase one. And then they, based on different factors, they came back, then the company came back to expand it to a second phase. And the rules that you see in front of you are that final second phase. So these are the basically new and improved. I don't know if this section changed between those two additions, but these are the current and final version that county has on this particular topic. I didn't want to go back and-
I don't really see a problem with requiring to maintain security for the entire.
I just don't- that's not a bad idea.
They need
I just didn't know if they comment, hey, we learned, so we
That's-
have to.
I went around to all,
Because I agree with.
Well,
surrounding counties and well, at least with, Nemaha County, the road stuff was one of their major ongoing things. They said they had to fight them every year on
Yeah. And they're still fighting them over. For the semi going in with all the parts and pieces for those big wind towers.
it. Well, that's what we were talking about.
So for that piece, Luke, what if it was prior to construction, the applicant shall post an acceptable form of financial assurance, including but not limited to irrevocable letter of credit, performance bond, cash escrow. The amount shall be determined by the civil engineer based on anticipated roadway and drainage impacts. The security shall remain in effect through construction, continue for a minimum of 12 months after construction, be accessible to the county for completion of required repairs if the applicant fails to do so.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a bit of what's written in their existing road conditions.
Yeah,
I just was-
that's what you just read basically
Was wondering whether it's
is in here, but you just done it in a short
put that in our
term.
regs or is that in a county agreement? I don't know. I mean,
We can always put it in, if we want to take that.
I was reading, this is talking about those farms, right?
yeah, but that's just for
But
decommissioning.
then it also says in like that, wherever it talked about the
And that's,
non-compliance, and the non-compliance, it states that if they fail to comply, that's on page 32, and then 6 talks about if they fail to comply with.
So that language should just be in the non-compliance portion.
it's just having the funds available so that you don't have to fight for it. I mean, if a road gets damaged and it needs to be fixed and it costs $500,000 to fix it, we don't want to spend a year because $500,000 is a third of our rock budget.
Well,
whatever.
here on this, it says if the owner and or operator shall fail to remedy the conditions or address non-compliance in a timely manner, as determined by the commission in its sole discretion, the Board of County Commissioners upon notice shall have a hearing on these violations and determine by majority vote that the project should be halted and any use granted should be revoked. Upon that revocation, the county may engage any bonds or undertakings to restore the property and further enforce this regulation. It's on page 29 at the top.
Well, and
It's not state.
It's under construction spec.
For this, so that-
not for roads. But I'll, just as an aside, we've said that our regulations are 36 pages long. How long was Lynn County's?
I don't have an exact number, but I want to say it's over 150.
Oh, really? I thought somebody said ours was one of the longest around.
It
So.
probably is.
But I just wondered, I mean, if there's some, like as Jamie's reading, it's addressed elsewhere in this document, but
Well, they've got,
That's just in the construction phase, though, that's not, I mean,
Right.
it's
Ongoing.
a good language, it just needs to be in a,
Different spots.
so where I would say it needs to be with the violations and the penalties, it needs to be in there.
In the road section.
No,
No,
just under non-compliance and penalty. So like if you put,
Is that's gonna be
Penalty
a-
part, right.
yeah.
Is this Lynn County one that's already in effect?
Yes.
So they've got construction done? Or
Yes, it's been done for,
They built one solar field, they built one, and then they rewrote the regs and built another one adding on to it. So that was my question, was like, did they rewrite this after the first project and realize, hey, we should have said the same that
yeah, as in,
we
we're
did?
going to sue for $700,000. Plus, in this one, let's put that money in up front. I mean, put in $1 million bond for road repairs. You could do that one with a letter of credit, as opposed to the decommissioning fund. I think needs to be cash in hand something. But in that one, you could have an irrevocable letter of credit that you could go pull from if you needed to.
I'm just gonna throw this out. I said something else several minutes ago, but do we want to replace, just replace some whole pieces of our number 6 with pieces of all of their number 6?
I like the level of language in there, that's
Yeah,
I like the survey beforehand, and we just basically say a, kind of the, my glasses back on, I think the word is on there. We call it a study, I guess they call it a survey. I like their wording a lot better than theirs.
So the entire section 6.
I think it's pretty easy to read through there one time and kind of get a picture. This one kind of bounces around. Well, maybe it kind of sort of.
Is that where it would be? Is this where this is the only place we talk about existing roads?
well, the biggest thing though that needs to be done is it needs to be mandatory within a mile radius of where these solar systems, if they do put them in Jackson County, has to be water tested to groundwater and so many feet down to make sure that we're not getting.
We do have something in there.
There's one over here, but it's just it's so,
Let's get through this, then we'll talk about that.
Stay on
Stay on
the task here.
Okay.
So is there any other place where we talk about roads? Existing roads? Because this is existing condition type surveys. Is that what we're talking about?
I think that's the only place we talk about
I don't remember a place, though.
It must be
Well,
one.
there-
it.
that's,
It's on the site plan, but.
well, well, no, I'm just thinking we talked about, I mean, it's in that same section. Yeah.
Do we have a soil in there? No, that's the language that's in there.
It'd be in section 5, right? I mean, that's where we have stormwater and drainage management, groundwater testing, post-construction operation inspections.
Mhm. 28 and 29.
yeah, the groundwater testing and everything's on page 29.
Separate from the road.
I believe that the only time it's on the roads is on that page 21.
It says traffic and road maintenance plan.
I mean, yeah, it talks in the site plan, different things about the roads. But as far as that plan,
Ongoing.
I think is, yeah, so replacing that number 6 with some of the verbiage in this one.
If you call it, if we replace our entire current number 6 with Lynn County's number 6, with of course changing Lynn County secondary roads to Jackson County Road Department. And Lynn County, of course, listed separately to Jackson County, of course.
Was that your belief it would replace it entirely? Because you obviously
That would
spend
be
a
an
lot of
option.
time
That would be
looking
an
through
option.
it.
That'd be an option.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously spend a lot of time looking through it.
Right, that would be an option.
I don't have any disagreement to that.
Obviously, there at the end of that, section B is Lynn County Secondary Roads Engineers. Also, that, those middle 5 words will be Jackson County Road Supervisor. It is
Superintendent or just, you could just put road department
Right, which would also be the,
entirely.
exactly. So,
Doesn't really want an engineer.
I think you want an
I
engineer
mean,
to get
because-
out the bridges and stuff.
There may be some things that an engineer can see that are more
Well, you
structural.
probably want both,
Yeah,
looking
you're-
at it.
the plan that we had just said civil engineer, like our set of.
Because we don't have a county
Right.
engineer.
right.
So then maybe that's changed to licensed civil engineer instead of Lynn County engineer.
Problem is, they may select a civil engineer.
Well-
They desire, and it won't be on the county list.
Yeah,
That's where this-
why
I mean,
the
this
Jackson County
says
Road Department would cover.
it shall meet the Lynn County Secondary Roads Engineer satisfaction. So Jackson County would have, whether we have an engineer on staff or not, we still would have a recommendation.
Right, the authority to determine where that recommendation
Right.
comes from.
And that would be up to the road department
Right,
to sign off.
right. And the cost of
That cost would be on the county,
would be covered by that,
Right.
there was mention towards the end there about the bond, what that would cover. Some of these
well, if you're
staffing
talking
expenses.
required engineer satisfaction at the end, and If it's our engineer, we're paying for it.
Yeah,
Well-
engineer, and that's gonna be there on them.
We gotta pull out the bond.
Well, another one that a lot of people, have, you know, already basically is where about every city or whatever in this area where it's gonna be is all volunteer fire department. And I think that the people that are putting this in have to make it till they have a way to get it till they can get help, put it out or whatever. Because their Delia doesn't even have like 3 trucks is all they have down in that area. And it could be, do you got 9?
Can we stay on task?
Say on roads, you know.
Let's finish the roads conversation, please.
I mean, we could do something to where, you know, the cost, we just have to make sure that the cost of this engineer is part of that permitting cost or whatever.
So is it possible that the way Lynn County, the way they write it is Lynn County Secondary Roads Engineer. They have an engineer on
Yeah.
staff. We don't. So we just have our road department, and whether or not we have to have an engineer sign off, we have our standards, and that is our standards. So it's, I think, to go too far, I mean, I don't want to go too far and make it have to be, you know, a hired engineer. What, I mean, if it's up to our road department standards, I think that's,
What about something like Jackson County Road Department and as approved by the Jackson County Commissioners? Because, I mean, they basically are the ultimate one on that.
right.
Well,
So
and it
the
also,
road department is the contact, and then whatever they come up with would be in conjunction with the commissioners. And so if they want to hire somebody and then the agreement puts it back on the company. we can do
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, if there's a problem, the superintendent comes out and says, oh, there's a problem with this bridge down here, and the company says, no, there's not, there's gonna be an engineer coming in anyway,
Commissioners have to be involved in something.
right? I mean, if there's any problem, you're gonna have to have an engineer, because it's gonna be like, there's gonna be a dispute. And then you have to have that.
Personally, speaking for myself, I have no problem with adding, you know, and by Jackson County Commission to that last line.
So
I have no problem adding, I mean, personally, I have no problem with adding, and as approved by Jackson County Commission.
So Jackson County Road Department and,
Jackson
Board of County Commission.
Board of County Commission, right to the end of, section B, 6B.
Can you keep it in the license now? Camera.
Here again, to move forward. Would it be possible for you to rewrite this, Jonathan, for the next time?
Yeah, we can.
And make, so that Kate's not trying to make those changes, then we come back, oh, no, that's not what we meant.
You're right. Yeah, that's not-
Word it how you think it needs to be, and then we can come back.
Which is basically just replacing the names with.
my other concern was the 12 months. The 12-month limitation on here, is this where you put in for the life of the project?
I don't know if you can do that, because I think you can do that if there's construction activities begin again on the site, then you can reference back to this agreement to say, okay, we need another bond, we need another thing, but to have them bond the roads that they're not even gonna be using for years and years now.
My understanding is that there's always ongoing maintenance.
there's gotta be,
There's gonna be,
But this was addressing construction.
okay.
So-
So we need another section for ongoing maintenance.
And that should, I'm thinking that would be the ongoing maintenance, and it talks about, I think,
Because this would be
ongoing
an
operation.
application phase that they would provide this.
Yeah.
And after the application's done,
Okay.
then you would move into an agreement with the company to maintain whatever.
Which would be part of that road use agreement. That road use agreement is not just for the, I mean,
Not to say-
I would
Right.
concede that that would just not be the construction phase, that would be the entire life of the project, as long
Right.
as it exists.
As long as you find something.
Okay, yeah, I can look up.
just to say
It's
this.
basically the same thing, but just with the names.
Right.
The names
And
and
then-
places changed.
And then later in the agreement, it talks about construction, right? Then you bring up later in the agreement, it talks about further phases of construction.
That's construction.
Yeah,
I think there is something about construction.
so on page 30, number 2 at the top, post-construction operation, that's where it talks about it. This whole plan is reviewed every 3 years.
Okay.
But that's, as you just said, holding the road agreement to this post or pre-construction agreement is gonna be hard to do. So there's gonna have to be a post-construction road agreement, but I think that would come to the commissioners. So,
Mhm.
Right, yeah. Correct.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, I think it's 8:01.
Can we, I want to hear, I've been dying to hear what Chris wants.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh.
I was thinking earlier, okay, we moved that third person. Yeah, thank you.
So, as far as like water needed and fire suppression needed, NextEra actually reached out to me for the fire departments, and they wanted to set up another meeting with the fire chiefs to kind of go over some of their things that they've learned. Because I've asked for a SOG guideline, if they have anything like that, or if they have anything in place that we can like start from. And they have a new guy on staff, he's actually heading all that up. He has not emailed it to me yet, but he's gonna email it so that we can start seeing what the SOGs or the SOPs, depending on, we always call them Gs, but you can, to start basing that off, and then some of the water needed, the fuel load, BTU load, stuff like that, that some of the components put off. And he's gonna get some of that information to me, and then kind of give us an idea of what we are up against, depending on where it's at. Because there is some areas in the county that, obviously, pretty much anywhere this goes is gonna be a tanker shuttle, is the only way we can handle it. But how long is it gonna take to get that tanker shuttle started and completed? So he's getting some of that information back to me so I can have some more definite answers next time. Basically, on the fire suppression part of it, the panels, basic terms are glass and aluminum. There's wiring, there's conduit, stuff like that, but that all has a small fuel load. So, most of that, if it's on fire, it's gonna be cool the next ones to keep it from continuing, and that's about all you're gonna do. So, there's gonna be a little bit of fire suppression, but not as much as I kind of thought maybe in the beginning. But again, when the SOGs come in, we'll have some better numbers on that.
What's that, so good?
Standard operating guidelines. So if you run on standard operating procedures, it means you have to do it legally. If you run on SOGs, which our department runs on SOGs, it's guidelines. So if you run into something like you have to change, I know we don't normally do that, but we did this because of. So everything I wrote up for our department is on SOGs, just for a legal way, safety, I guess. And then the watershed district, I reached out to them right after the meeting. They had already had their October meeting, the November meeting, I was out of town with family. And then the next one is next week, and I'm scheduled for another meeting. I don't remember where. I got another meeting Wednesday, so I probably won't make this month. If somebody'd like to go, it's in Wamego, and they meet at 6 o'clock. And you do not have to get ahead to get on the agenda. You can walk in and then we'll talk. But I've already kind of told some of the members in our area that are on the board that I'm going to come down and talk to them and kind of see what they're wondering and what they're needing. So if somebody else wants to attend next Wednesday, feel free. If not, it'll be January's meeting. I'll try to schedule it in. But they're pretty excited to have somebody come down and talk to them and see what they're wanting and what they're needing. They're going to be crunchy. They already told me that up front. I've been to their meetings. Yeah, I've been to their meetings before. So that's what I got on mine. Yes.
I think that was, everyone has one more?
I did, but I'll bring it next time. It was on the panel construction.
Yep, I got Bob wrote down for toxic chemicals and components of panel.
Johnson.
And I'll actually have some information on that, with what they sent, if you want some of that.
Oh, okay, good, yeah.
So, the new guy that's reaching out, he's pretty cool to talk to.
Good.
He was a lot more informative, so.
Good.
I was pretty happy. He said, don't put water on the fire. Which is cool.
Which in that I'd say that the fuel underneath would be worse than the actual panels. I mean,
Because that's where your BTUs are gonna continue coming from, to continue
right.
allowing the aluminum and glass to burn, so. I wanna see the motors if you know underneath,
That ain't happening. I can tell you that. You can
Those
see in the
pictures, they look
picture that they showed earlier that it ain't being
but. Those panels that
Well, I don't know about
Everything I read said a lot of places have been running sheet grass in the road
Still be fine.
to keep the grass down. And actually, it makes the wool better on the sheet because if they get underneath there in the heat, the heat makes their wool.
We talked a little bit about other counties' regulations. When you guys were still working on having public hearings and stuff, I started going around to other counties just to find out what they were doing. And I haven't gotten to read everything I obtained from them, but one of the things I did print off tonight that was easy for me to do was an example of Brown counties and what they've done. So assuming you guys don't have that. If you don't have that, I printed off enough copies of my own so you guys can just see it and read through it and see what they have. They don't, my understanding is they don't actually have much zoning in Brown County, but anyway, this is what they have that I printed off in order. And there's 3 basically things they passed, and one was the zoning, so they could address the solar, and then they did 2 on solar, and so you guys can read it through it. The numbers will give you an indication of the order they were passed in, so just we'll take one off each file and do that.
Do you want to make a appointment for next meeting or not?
Read through it, or whatever you want to do.